This is nothing to mourn about here. This is a celebratory scenario as far as the beginning of our program is concerned with this incredible man with an incredible life. I mean, St. Louis with Joe Garagiola, kicking soccer balls around. World War II, Normandy, early part of that invasion on June 6, 1944 on D-Day. That was Yogi Berra. He was a gunner on a battleship. I mean, this is a guy who shows up with the Yankees in the mid-40s and 46, 47, doesn't play a ton. He's a young hitter. That's DiMaggio's Yankees. All of a sudden, he gets in the lineup in 1948. You can't take him out of that lineup for 12 years. The great Yogi Berra. Let me first tell, for the folks who don't know that much about him, the younger player who might be watching today and the younger fan, folks, this is one of the great baseball players. You could make an argument that he should have been one of those franchise fours there last week or at the All-Star game with Koufax, Aaron, and Mays. He overbenched. That's how good Berra is. If you look at his offensive numbers between 1949 and 1956, they are astronomical. We're talking about 5 years of over 100 RBIs. We're talking about 100 runs scored. We're talking about an incredibly good batting average with a tremendous walk-to-strikeout ratio. I mean, he never struck out. This guy who never struck out 15 times in a season with on-base percentages at 370 and 380 and 390. I mean, that's how good this guy was in a big spot. Think Manny Sanguian. I mean, he swung at everything, but he never struck out. Balls outside corner went the other way. Balls inside jacket over the right field wall. This is one of the most unbelievably underrated offensive players you ever see in your life. Plus, he never made an error. You know, he played in all these World Series. He never made an error. You know, he never made an error. Not a bad throw, not a pass. Maybe he made a pass ball. So never made an error. There's a man who never made an error in a World Series game. And forget the World Series accomplishments. He had an incredible amount of World Series accomplishments. A little shaky early in his World Series career, but from 52, 53 on, he was phenomenal in World Series. He won 3 MVPs. He really should have won 4. You know, his second best year is 1950. I mean, if you look at the 1950 season for Yogi Berra, I mean, he hit 322 with 28 homers and 124 RBIs and 116 runs scored. Think about that. 124 RBIs, 116 runs scored, hit 28 homers, and hit 322. Rizzuto that year won the MVP. Berra should have won the MVP. He's got more RBIs than anybody in the American League in the decade of the 50s. He was never worse than 4th in the MVP balloting between 1950 and 1957. This is one of the, I think people don't understand how great he is. And then he has a career after his career. First off, he managed forever. You know, he managed the 64 Yankees. He managed the 73 Mets. I mean, obviously he managed the 85 Yankees. He was a coach for Gil Hodges' great team that won the World Series in 1969. And then he didn't want to talk to the Steinbrenner families, George specifically, because George sent Clyde King down to fire him 12 games or 16 games, whatever it may have been, into the 1985 season. George fired him. He had Clyde King as GM fire him. And Don Baylor was so upset he was throwing garbage cans in the Yankee clubhouse at Comiskey Park. That's how much the Yankee players love playing for Yogi Berra. Everybody like to make fun of his malaprops. You know, the guys, how smart can Yogi? Yogi was smart as a cat. You know how smart Yogi was? Yogi, smart all the way to the bank. All those funny lines. I mean, he may have done that because Yogi, you know, I mean, that was Yogi, but he knew what people wanted to hear out of Yogi. You know, gets laid around here early, all these wild, I don't even know what they are. There's so many of them. But Yogi, there was something about Yogi, he was crafty. You can't play in baseball and be part of that sport for as long as Yogi was without having an incredible inner sense of the game. And again, look at all this stuff. Yogi goes by one name. One name. LeBron, Kobe. One name. Yogi. You don't have to say Yogi Berra. You say Yogi. You say Yogi, everybody knows who he is. This is a guy who was doing commercials when he was 80, 81 years of age. I mean, think about it. How many guys do you know doing commercials? This is Joe DiMaggio with Mr. Coffee back in the early 70s, and DiMaggio wasn't 80 when he was doing it. Yogi was doing Aflac commercials when he was 80 years of age. I mean, he really, and again, you never get him to talk about it. D-Day. Normandy. Married to the same woman for 50-something years. How hard is that nowadays? Nobody does that anymore. I mean, managed, and you like his principle. You know, he was so annoyed that George wouldn't talk to him for 13 years. Susan Warman, a Yankee broadcaster, brokered sort of an agreement that the two of them would get back together again. George showed up at the Yogi Center of Learning, the museum over there, that great one in Montclair, New Jersey. Yogi, obviously, let's let bygones be bygones. It's been late enough, long enough. Let's go out there and let's make amends. And then Yogi was honored there at Yankee Stadium. And Yogi loved, I remember after Game 5 when they lost to Detroit, when Fister started, this is about 5-6 years ago. Yogi, I was there. Yogi walked out of that dugout. Can we get a clutch hit, Chris? Can somebody get a base hit? That was when nobody hit the ball. The Yankees lost 3-2 in Game 5, and they couldn't hit it all against that Tiger pitching staff. Tigers ended up losing to Texas. This is in the 2010 postseason, I think it was. 2010. No, it was later than that, because the Texans played St. Louis. 2011. Yogi was annoyed that the Yankees couldn't get a hit in the postseason. Used to drive across that GW Bridge listening to John Sterling. This is a man that had an incredible life. Incredible life. So this is not a day that, we mourn, of course, but this is a day we honor Yogi. I mean, one of the great and an historic figure. I mean, look at the 1956 season. We're going to tell you about that in Turn Back Time shortly. Not only did he hit 2 homers in Game 7, he caught a perfect game, which he considered the greatest honor of his life, catching that Don Larson perfect game in Game 5 of the 1956 World Series against Brooklyn at Yankee Stadium. Clutch player, responded, went to left field. He's the player, of course, when Mazeroski hit the home run. Yogi's the guy that watched the ball go over that left field wall. But the nicest guy in the world with no ego. No ego. It's funny. Yogi jumped into Don Larson's lap. Larson didn't jump on Yogi Berra's lap. One of the greats, and as good a guy as you can be, the passing of Yogi today at the age of 90. Not that many of them left now from that era. Whitey, right? From the early 50s, DiMaggio's Yankees. Not many left. Lots to say. I said enough. Bruce Shine here today, pal. Go ahead.
Married 65 years.
65 years.
Carmen Berra, who passed away
about
a year and a half
ago.
Listen, to me, any conversation when you talk about the great winners of all time in team sports begins with Bill Russell and Yogi Berra. And that's that. The thing that stands out to me when you look at his career and you look at his life, even with all the other immortal, iconic Yankee figures, Ruth, DiMaggio, Mantle, even the high moral standard Lou Gehrig beyond reproach, there were what ifs or buts, I should say, with all those guys for various reasons. Never anything with Yogi. And you talk about all the Yogi-isms and catchphrases. You talked about this on the show, the 73 Mets that he managed, a very mediocre team. Made a run late. He coined the phrase, "It ain't over till it's over," but it's over now, and it's just been an amazing ride.
Very humble, and he appealed to the young kid as much as he did to guys like you and I. Yeah. 10-year-olds get a kick out of it. 10-year-olds used to get a kick out of it.
Well, I mean, listen.
He's funny. He looks like he's a little guy. He's funny.
Well, you talk about all the career accomplishments. There was a renowned cartoon figure named for him, Yogi Berra, in the late 50s. And he transformed much more than just what you saw, between the white lines on a baseball.
And he loved that little days. He used to have that Upper Montclair Country Club where he used to go there, play his little golf, have a little vodka, and sit there and play his cards, and then drive home, listen to the Yankee game at night. Boy, Yogi loved those days. All right, Turn Back Time, that was a good one. I think this is Yogi's, he should have won the MVP this year, but Mantle won the Triple Crown, so he couldn't. This is 1956. This is Game 7. The only player ever to hit two-run homers in a Game 7. And he hit one in the first inning off Newcomb. This is after Larson two days earlier had pitched a perfect game. And then later on in this game, third inning, he hits another home run. He hit 2 home runs and 4 RBIs in a game. Only player in the history of the sport, that's Ebbets Field, Brooklyn, to ever hit 2 home runs in a Game 7. And he had great World Series numbers. He was good in 60 against the Pirates, and obviously very good here, and plenty of rings. Yogi lived in October. He caught a perfect game in Game 5, and then hit 2 home runs to win it in Game 7. How about that for a stretch? He had an unbelievable life.